Welcome to Jesus is the Deep End. We're so grateful you're joining us as we explore the stories and testimonies of life within the body of Christ at Edgewater Christian Fellowship. Together, we'll hear how God is moving in our church, our community, and in the lives of His people.
Welcome to another episode of Jesus is the Deep End. I'm Nathaniel Duarte. Thanks so much for tuning in. And our guest today is Megan Baker. She is our worship director here at the church and is also our new women's ministry lead. Megan, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm excited to talk about all things worship related and women's ministry related. But before we get to that, can you share your testimony and how you came to know Jesus?
Yes. Well, it's, I was thinking about this the last couple days since talking to you and setting this up. Because I was thinking, like, man, when you say testimony, it's such a broad term and it's such a well-known term in like Christianese. And so how do I best break that down and really like get into what that has been for me in my life? And so what I came up with is I think of my testimony as when in my life have I encountered the reality of God? And sometimes it's been in the moment of something, in the process of something, and then a lot of times it's been a little bit more in hindsight. But for me, I think the best way is to start at the beginning. So my youth, I've born and raised at Grants Pass. I'm the oldest of 3 siblings. My parents have always been believers. And I think the underlying statement that I can say about my testimony in regards to my youth is I really think that it was shaped through my parents' devotion to God. We went to a really small church called Grace Bible here in town up until about, I don't know, I was about 8 or 9. And then we made the switch to Applegate Christian Fellowship. And, I was baptized, I think, around age 11, more or less because I knew that was something that was important. It was kind of almost like a rite of passage.
Right.
But I think, as far as when I became a Christian, I think I was probably much younger, 5, 6, kind of said that sinner's prayer and, had my doubts. I remember, in fact, when I was in elementary school asking one of my youth leaders, okay, I have a very serious question. If I ask Jesus into my heart and he comes in, if I ask him again, does he go out? And so then I have to ask him again to come back in. Like something in my mind was like, I really want to make sure I have this and really want to make sure I'm not canceling it out by, asking too many times. So, but I remember my first kind of like encounter with Jesus, with the Holy Spirit. I remember going on a youth trip when I was probably 8th or 9th grade down to California, went to a great camp, had a worship night. And I just remember kind of having that I think it's pretty common for kids in that age when they're starting to gain a little bit of independence. You have kind of this overwhelming emotional experience, whether it's to a particular song or whatever. I just remember it was a worship night and I remember kind of feeling overwhelmed a little bit emotionally and feeling like, whoa, this is touching to me. Like this is like Jesus's love for me is something that I'm very grateful for.
Yeah.
And so I remember getting baptized a second time on that trip. And that kind of, my take and my understanding on Christianity, it was, I was born in 1981. So growing up in like a smaller church and then a Calvary Chapel church, you do the right thing. You follow, the example of your parents who are also doing the right thing. And my parents have always been very devout. They've always been very involved in church. And so they really set an excellent example as far as, this is what the life of a believer looks like. And so I just kind of followed their lead on that.
Right.
Yeah. And then as far as like throughout like little factors for the rest of my, youth, I went to a really small Christian school up through 8th grade, then went to North Valley High School, graduated class of 98, and then went to Simpson Bible College for a couple years, graduated from Southern Oregon University. I wanted to teach high school speech and debate. And so I got my Bachelor's of Science in Human Communications, and I minored in music. And then when I went to apply to the master's program, I didn't get in. And which was kind of like a bummer, but also I remember doing student teaching my senior year, my capstone project in college, and I didn't really love it. And so I thought, maybe I don't want to do that. And so that kind of like ended my time at home, my youth-ish, and then kind of moving then into adulthood, though, is where I feel like I really found my footing with Christ. Like my testimony, like if it were to be boiled down to a sentence as far as my adulthood goes, that was when I really solidified my belief in Christ and found, definitely a very, a calling on my life with worship, but that was just very freely given. Music has always been a part of my world. My parents have always been musicians. They met on a singing tour called Up With People in the 70s. Dad's been a guitar player. My mom plays guitar. They both sing. Like music was always a part of my upbringing. We were singing in the car. I mean, literally like the Partridge Family driving out to Applegate because we lived in Grants Pass, drove out to Applegate. It's a 45-minute drive. And we would sing.
Yeah.
Sing in the car. And so I learned about harmonies and melodies, and it was just something I was always super, super comfortable with. And I was pretty good at it.
Yeah.
All kind of growing up, but I was also surrounded by a lot of really incredible talent. Like, I don't know what it is, if there's something in the water here in Southern Oregon, but there's just a phenomenal amount of like excellent musicians and singers. And so, music, I was in choirs and different things in junior high school. And then once I was out of high school, out of college, we were going to Applegate. I had sang, my parents were involved with worship at Applegate. I had sang with them a couple times, just done like special songs because out there would always be a 4 or 5 song worship set, and then there would be a special song before the teaching. And so I was involved with them and did a couple of those, and kind of found like in my late teens, early 20s, my own style of singing. Yeah. I'm an alto. I've never been the soprano. So I've always had a lower voice. I really liked soulful singers.
Yes.
So, and that was the era too. Like, you're talking 2000, 2001. So you're looking at the birth of artists like Joss Stone, Alicia Keys, Angie Stone, India Ari, all of these like very soulful singers. And I loved singing like that. I loved being able to move my voice around like that. There was something about how they sang. It just felt very like heartfelt. And so I remember kind of pulling that style a little bit into worship. And I remember the first time I did like a special song at Applegate that I really felt like I really connected with. I did a remake of Some Kind of Wonderful and I kind of changed the lyrics around. And I just remember singing that song and the way that the congregation responded, because it's such a good song and it had this really cool bass groove, and like it was so much fun. But I just remember thinking like, this is really fun. I hope that I can continue to do this. And so I was about 22 at that point, and Peter John was the pastor at that point. John Corson had been the pastor, and now it was Peter John. And they asked me to be on staff there. So I was a part-time worship staff member. And what is interesting is right around that same time, I honestly think it was probably within a month of getting hired there, was when my entire world of my faith got turned completely upside down. Wow. So, I had been in somewhat of a bubble, I would say, faith-wise, growing up with my parents. Most of my family friends were Christians. Most of my friends were Christians. And so I was working at Dutch Bros at the time, and I had a coworker who knew I liked to read. And he's like, "Oh, dude, you should read this book. It's called The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown." And I'm like, "What's it about?" He's like, "Oh, it's like kind of like Indiana Jones." And he's like, "You'll like it." And so I read it. And again, as a naive 22-year-old reading that book, which was so well written, it had just enough truth in it for me to be like, that's wow, this is like really good. But then it also had, I mean, you know, spoiler alert, if you don't know that story, the author says that basically like Jesus and Mary had children.
Right.
And so I got to the end of it, I'm like, I know that's not true. But if it is, that's like, I mean, I know it's not. But if it is, like, you know, it just planted this little like, wow, that's a crazy thing to think. And then I remember in like probably the next couple weeks, I went to a friend's house and they were watching a documentary called Fahrenheit 9/11, which I had never really been a political person. My parents aren't super political. I just knew that they had a tendency to vote conservative. And watching that documentary, it completely dismantled, you know, a lot of like the post 9/11 politics that were happening in our country. And in a way that I was like, oh my gosh, like what if I think my parents might be wrong. And so when you have a faith that's centered around your parents' beliefs and you start to see like there's a possibility that they could be wrong,
right.
It just completely throttled my faith. To where I was like, I don't really know what I believe. Maybe God's real, maybe he's not. And it just sent me for a complete spiral. And it was just very interesting timing. I wasn't living at home. I was living with roommates in Medford. So I wasn't around my parents a ton, but I do remember telling them about this, and they were very cool about it because they were like, hey, like, we love you.
Yeah.
Basically, like, you're going to have to figure that out. And the timing, though, that was awkward for me is I had just gotten hired at the church out of Applegate. And so I had to be there for a certain number of like services and all this time. And I just remember I was like, okay, fine. Like I'll go and I'll do worship and then I'll just leave. I don't want to hear any propaganda. I don't want to hear, you know, in my mind, I'm going like, well, it's going to try and convince me. And I just don't want to hear that right now. I just want to be alone with my own thoughts. And so, that's what I did for about 3 months. I would go and I would do the worship and it was not worship to me. It was singing. And, I would do that and then I would leave. And I just kind of floated. It didn't like spiral. It didn't make me panic. I was just kind of like almost apathetic to it.
Right.
Kind of like, we'll see. And then I very distinctly remember there was a worship night that we had regularly out there. I can't remember if it was Friday night or Saturday night, but it was, we started putting those together. It was when Seth Gilbert and Christy were out there and we had a really great band. We got to do it in the sanctuary. It was super popular, packed out every week. I would play piano and sing. And I just remember we'd had, you know, a handful of them. And I just remember this one particular night. I don't even remember what song we were singing. I kind of wish I could remember. But I just remember having a very similar, but like times 100 experience to the same one that I felt when I was 13 at that camp in California.
Yeah.
And it was this moment of like, not like floating outside of my body, but where I was kind of like, I felt like almost like a weight on my shoulders to where it almost felt like someone had put their arm around me. And I kind of remember playing the piano, like looking around my shoulder, like, did someone come up on stage? No one's there. So it was like this, like very real. It sounds so funny, but it's supernatural. So you can't comprehend it with like logic, but it was this weight on my shoulders, but I also felt like very, almost like lighthearted, giddy.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, like I wanted to burst into tears, almost from like relief and like sadness, kind of almost that I had, not that I had questioned, but like it was more like a relief, and feeling like I wanted to like laugh at the same time, again like this like giddy kind of like oh my gosh, and I just remember thinking in this moment like, oh my gosh, God, like this is you, you're showing up in a way that I needed you to almost physically show up for me.
Yes.
In order for me to go, okay, Yes, you're real. Because I was a part of worship that was great. I was hearing some of teaching, I wasn't gone all the time. Like I wouldn't always bail, but I was hearing some very, very good teaching. Peter John Corson was like an incredible Bible teacher. And that wasn't enough for me.
Yeah.
I needed like a very real moment. And he knew that.
Yeah.
And the fact, and it still is something that like when I think about it, I'm just like, man, God, you're so good, because music's always, like I said, it's always been a part of my life. It's always been something. I think that music is its own language in itself. It really does have the power to affect people on a very different level.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether or not you're good at it.
Right.
But for me, I just remember feeling like, God, how well do you know me that you would meet me in a moment like this, where I'm doing something that I do feel like I'm called to do something like this. And you chose right now.
Yeah.
It wasn't when I was out looking at nature or something beautiful, because I love that too.
Yes.
It wasn't in a great conversation, a meaningful conversation with a friend. I love that as well. It was you're revealing yourself to me in this moment right now. And I'm so grateful. And I knew at that moment, like, if I can experience something like this, something that's this powerful in worship, like I want to do this. Like this is something that is, I want to do this, but I want to do it for him, because this is life-changing.
Right.
It has the ability to be life-changing. Any given worship night, song, lyric has the ability to have a moment for somebody who's not even necessarily open to it, but the Spirit can strike your heart and you go, oh my gosh, there's a reality to this. And I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
So that was really kind of like my turning point, where it was like, I know that I know that I know that God is real. And I'm forever going to be grateful that he chose to reveal himself to me in that moment and in that way. And so moving on from there, I think it's important to know, because a lot of times when you hear testimony, you hear people share and they kind of go like, this was the struggle of my life before. This is when I met Jesus.
Yes.
And now I'm good.
Right.
And it's like,
yes.
Yes. But that doesn't necessarily mean, like, a life without Jesus isn't a life without struggle.
Yes.
It's just a life with struggle with him next to you.
Yes.
So like, as life went on, I am now married. My husband and I, we celebrate our what is it, 2006? Yeah, we'll be 19 years in August. We have 3 kids. Our oldest is almost 16, and we have a 14-year-old and a 9-year-old. And both marriage and parenting have taught me and brought me closer to the Lord than I would have ever thought they'd be able to. Like with marriage is one of those things that I think, if I could sum it up, I would say my testimony when it comes to marriage is I have chosen to trust the promise of God's plan and God's work. And it has been incredibly rewarding to do that. So Ryan and I, we met at church. We knew each other from Applegate. He was born and raised in Medford, so I didn't really know him growing up, but I knew of him at church. And we had a very quick relationship. We started dating in January of 2007. We were married in August.
Wow.
So we were, and it really was like, they say, when you know, I just did. Like, and it was just, I had been engaged before. I had dated others before. I had been in love before, but this was like, there is something about this guy. He's so easy to talk to. He's more of an extrovert. I'm an introvert. So conversation was so easy. I knew from very, very early on that this was different. And so, we get along. We always have gotten along. And so when we first were married, we lived in Bend for a year. He's a chiropractor and he had a practice there. So we were there for a year. And then we moved back to Grants Pass, bought a practice here, and then we've been here ever since. So, marriage is one of those things that I think it takes a while to kind of figure it out. Especially if you're like us, like we always got along really well. But I remember around year 7, they call it the 7-year itch. And I think they call it that for a reason. I think around year 7, you kind of go, okay, wait a minute. Is this how things are going to stay? Because there's something missing. There's something not quite right. And really it was our communication style. He's a verbal processor. So he's somebody who he has to talk about it in order to get to what he thinks. I'm the complete opposite. I am like, I need to think about it before I can say anything. And so it ended up in us having these like conflicts that never quite felt resolved. But I remember just feeling like, Lord, like, I know this is the man for me.
Yeah.
And I trust that marriage is supposed to be something that is like really, really good. And it doesn't feel like it's that yet, but I'm going to trust that we're going to figure it out. And so actually I think it was around year 10 or 11, we did the Prepare and Rich marriage counseling with Dick Worthington here at the church. So fantastic. Cannot speak highly enough about that. It is a personality quiz for your marriage, essentially. And you get to find out and discuss these tiny little nuances and these little tiny like behaviors and things where you go, oh, you think that when I do that? Oh my goodness, that is not at all what I'm meaning. It was incredible. And really since then, our marriage has just deepened and grown into something that that just has like incredible depth and trust and vulnerability. And it's just, I cannot recommend it highly enough, Nathaniel.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying,
Yes.
There's a lady out there.
Yes.
And then with parenting, parenting has shown me that growth in God is a lifelong endeavor because there's nothing more humbling than having children. Like you figure out, by the time you have kids, you kind of figure out how to like work with your spouse on being each other's mirror. Like, I love you. I can see what you're trying to do and you can see me for what I'm trying to do. And we're both in this to try and make each other better, but we're also working on ourselves at the same time. Then you have kids and you're like, oh, that's fun. Because it's like you and your spouse are each half of a deck of cards and then you shuffle it together and you get these kids who have, and you don't get to choose what traits they take from you and your partner. So it's like, oh, cool. So he has my laziness and your like verbal wizardry. Okay, how are we going to parent that? And so it becomes like, it's very humbling. And I think parenting, like, it's kind of shifted in the last 15 years from a more authoritarian style to a much more, if you swing the pendulum too far, like gentle parenting.
Yes.
What I love about the shift is it's become much more relational, which I think is super important. But at the same time, what I think parents need to be so careful of is treating their kids like this gold star for them. Like, well, my kid is, he or she is just, he's incredibly gifted. He has this, he has no flaws. And it's like, hold on, homie. Yes, he does. He's a little sinner, just like you are. And so you better recognize that as soon as possible. He's not a prodigy. He's not, whatever. And he's going to mess up all the time. And the quicker that you can recognize that he's doing that in part because he's part you.
Right.
The better off you are. Like parenting is a lifelong partnership with God for what he wants for my kids. Like I can put some things in there. I can hope for certain things. I can help in certain ways, but overall it is every single phase requires a different level of dependency on God, but the dependency on God never changes. It's not like, okay, well now they're in school, so now I can kind of let my foot off the gas. Nope. That's when they need you, I think, even more. And so as my kids are getting older to that, 18, possibly moving out of the house, I'm very curious how that will go. I've loved parenting every stage. I loved the newborn stage. I loved the toddler stage, homeschooled for a couple years, did that. And I'm loving the teenage stage. I think it's just, it's evolving and being humble as a parent and teaching your kids like, hey, I'm here and I am in charge of you. I am your authority, but please don't aim your life to look like mine. Aim your life to look like Christ.
Yeah.
And so I love parenting and that has been a huge growth in my faith and trust in God as far as my testimony goes. And then I would say, as far as like other elements of my life where I can look back and I can see how God has worked, friendships has been a big one for me. Really, I think that he has provided and he will continue to provide for me in all different seasons of friendships. I've always been a little bit of a nomad when it comes to friends. I went to a really small private school growing up through 8th grade. So I had kind of my friends there.
Yeah.
And then went to a public high school. Little fish, big pond. And so I didn't know anybody my freshman year. My first day, I literally knew nobody. And then at the same time, we were going out to Applegate Christian Fellowship. Well, there wasn't a lot of Grants Pass. Maybe some kids from Grants Pass High School went, but I was North Valley.
Right.
No kids from my high school
Yeah.
went to my church. And so I kind of was like an outsider a little bit with all of my friendship groups there, which wasn't a bad thing. I felt very loved and like I had a great time. I would redo high school 10 times out of 10. Loved it. Youth group, awesome.
Yeah.
Loved it. But I didn't have those super deep, like, we're in this friendships. They were a little bit more seasonal.
Right.
And that actually continued on through my 20s and 30s. I still have friends that I keep in touch with from my 20s. And then in my 30s, I became friends with a group of girls that I still am in touch with quite a few of them. And actually, we've kind of circled back into being a part of our each other's lives again, which I love. But they were so wonderful because they had kids my kids' age. And so for like the first, probably, honestly, for almost all of my 30s, I had this crew of friends that were super supportive, very loving, but they already had kind of full lives. I think when it comes to friendships with women, I think you got to be quality over quantity. And I think they recognize that. And they already had like their core girls.
Yes.
So I was still a part of it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't like the number 1 or number 2.
Yeah.
I was more like number 4, 5, 6, which again, like they never made me feel like that. It was never something that was, said, but it was just kind of more felt.
Yeah.
And so when I got into my late 30s, there was some conflict that arose and things kind of fractured a little bit. And things are still like, we're good now, but it just kind of like, it was kind of like it was a parting that needed to happen because I needed to be able to be I needed to part ways with them so I could find and be a part of the friendships where there was an equal level of investment.
Yes.
And so it's funny because for me, my best friends now all came into my life in my mid to late 30s and 40s. Which is wild, but it's been so good. And those have been very, very important to me. And it's the coolest thing is because in your 30s and 40s, you're raising kids, friendship takes a little bit of a backseat and there's a mutual understanding and grace given by us, like all of us together, that where it's like, hey, haven't seen you for literally 4 weeks, but we can pick up right where we left off.
Yep.
And we're all like, the thing I love about my closest friends, they love their husbands, they love being moms, and they love Jesus.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, that is the criteria that I am grateful for because we can encourage one another, we can call each other out, but they don't bash their men, and they don't whine about being parents. There's hard things about being a parent. There's hard things about marriage for sure, but it's always done with an attitude of respect and adoration for their, respect for their men and adoration for their kids. So I'm grateful for how Jesus has filled my plate appropriately and allowed me to pivot when I needed to. And he's never left me lacking in that area. And then I think the last area that I can say I've seen God work through me and reveal himself to me is through my work. And I think the biggest underlying principle that I have embraced is I refuse to compromise on my priorities, on the ones that align with my soul.
Yeah.
And I thankfully haven't had to.
Yeah.
Like, and with work, it's I didn't graduate college with the idea of going into a career because I didn't get into the master's program. I didn't really feel led to teach anymore. I worked for an ad agency for a while, and then I just did part-time work. Once Ryan and I got married, I helped out at his office for a while, and then as soon as I had kids, that was it. Like that was what I was born to do. I was born to be a mom.
Yeah.
And there was nothing more important to me than that. I was able to be at home with my kids up until I was home with at least one of them up until 2023. And that's the first year my youngest, Maggie, was in first grade. Charlie, my daughter, was in seventh. And then Izzy, my older, was in eighth. And so that was the first year. So Izzy was born in 2010. So 2023. So 13 years I was, that was my work.
Yeah.
And we homeschooled for a bit, and it was kind of nice actually because I felt pulled to homeschool. My older two went to Highland for a couple years. We had a great experience there. And then I just felt a tug, which again, when they were little, I kind of thought about homeschooling, but it was so overwhelming. And then when Izzy was in third grade and Charlie was in second grade, is when I was like, I just feel like I want to explore this. There was a lot of women that I know had done it. And so I started doing it in fall of 2019, which ended up being extremely serendipitous timing because COVID hit 2020. Everyone else had to do it anyways towards like the spring. And so we kind of got a jump start by choice. And so we did that for 4 years. And I absolutely loved it. I would recommend homeschooling to every parent. There's plenty of moms who are like, I could never. And I'm like, well, you could. You don't have to do it forever.
Right.
But like, man, even just doing like getting to know your kids in that way, it shines a very different light on who they are. You get to find out a lot about their personality based on their learning style. And you get to have this different role in their life. And again, my kids, I could teach my daughters all day. My son and I, we need a padded room in order to like full form tackle one another because I'm just like I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. He's just the way that he learns. Anyways, don't need to go into it. But it had a ton of challenges, but it was so good. And I will always look back on that season of our life and be like, that was like really difficult, but it was so good. And then coming out of that, I got to help begin and start a school here in town. I got to be a part of that project, which was very invested as far as my time goes, for 9 months. And I really loved being able to be a part of that creative starting something brand new. Right. It was super cool. I loved being able to do that work. I stepped aside from that about 9 months in and immediately started working for my husband. So he is a chiropractor. He has an office here in town, and they needed like an interim manager. Interim. Not permanent, just for a bit. And so myself and then his business partner, who's also a chiropractor there, his wife, we both came in and we were like, okay, we'll do this for a little bit. Well, that was July of 2023. And we just had a staff meeting yesterday with both of us there.
Yes.
So we're still there.
Right.
But that was also like a really incredible learning opportunity for me because I think there's something for anytime you have a different job, you just, again, if you're able to step back and learn and be somebody who's like, I'm here, I'm in the office as the manager, but I'm going like, I don't know what I'm doing. Help me, Lord, teach me. So I'm looking around for like different ways of how does this kind of a system work? What are the best ways to like initiate different protocols and procedures? How do people respond best to criticism? How can I continue to like let our employees know how valuable they are, but still have them tweak and pivot and do what they need to do without damaging that relationship?
Right.
And it has been like a massive learning experience for the last, 2.5 years. And I've loved it. But what I've loved about it is I've been able to figure out like my strong suit is relationships.
Yeah.
I am not great with the inspirational. Let's go. Let's get it. Like I'm not the coach. I'm also not like I'll do like boots on the ground. I can do some of that stuff. But again, like I am the one who I want to know and connect with you. I want to know how you're doing. How can I support you and make you feel valued to the point that you understand how important you are so that you can feel safe and necessary in what it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
So, and it's been a learning curve. There have been definitely some ups and downs, but I love that is how God made me.
Yes.
And that he's given me this avenue to do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that when it comes to overall work though, some of my favorite work has been with ministry.
Yeah.
So like I said, worship has been a part of my life since I was about 16.
Yeah.
Worked at Applegate for about 3 years. Ryan and I got married. We lived in Bend. I helped with worship at the church that we were going to over there. And then when we moved back, we started going to Edgewater. So Edgewater, I obviously have known about Edgewater since the get-go because it was born from Applegate.
Yes.
My dad is one of the starter pastors. Matt Heverly I've known Matt since I was 16 and he was 25 and he came and lived in our basement. And so I knew him. I knew him when he was working at Met One, when he and Charity started dating and got married, and then when he became a pastor at Applegate. And so when Edgewater started, I was still working at Applegate. And I stayed at Applegate when Edgewater started, which is actually one of my regrets. If I could do that over when Edgewater started, I wish I would have left Applegate and come home. But hindsight. But I was there for about, I think Edgewater started in 04, 05?
Yeah, I think it was 05.
05?
Yeah.
Okay, 05. And then, so I stayed at Applegate until Ryan and I got married in 07. We went to Bend and came back in 08 and immediately went to Edgewater. And I remember in the fall of 08, I remember standing in the RCC bowl after a Sunday morning service, talking to Matt and with Ryan, the three of us talking, and Matt saying to me, well, when are you going to do worship here? And I remember saying like, oh, like with my dad? Because I'd done worship with my dad forever. Well, like with my dad? And he goes, no, just you. And I went, what? Do girls do that? Do girls do that? Because this is like 2008. So this is pre Stephanie Gretzinger and like all of these phenomenal female worship leaders that are now such like cornerstones of the worship genre. This is before all that. This was like, that wasn't really a thing. There were no female worship leaders. I mean, I remember at Applegate, Linda Morrison led, but she did it with Greg Eckler. So there were no only females leading. That was like, you didn't do that.
Right.
And not I don't really know for any good reason other than there was a lot of really good guys, you know? And I still feel like there's something very important and necessary about male worship leaders. Like the bottom line is the guys will sing when a guy is singing. Like that's just, it's a more comfortable feeling for them. But I remember looking at that and thinking about that and being like, okay, challenge extended. I will get them in to sing.
Yeah.
Yes, I will. And so I started leading worship by myself as far as like me being the main vocalist in 2008. And then I just volunteered my time. I did it often. 2008 up, well, I'm still doing it. So, but I remember in around, and I had great partnerships too. Like I a lot of times would have a guy. Trevor Hanks and I led worship for Edgewater for years. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let me think. When did we start? We started leading worship together in like 2011 or 12 up through 2020. I loved singing with him. I still like, oh man, that was he is such an incredible vocalist and songwriter and musician. Like I love leading worship with him, and he loves Jesus.
Yeah.
And throughout that, time, there was always, Edgewater was kind of it was a melting pot of leaders. There's always different leaders. Some females, more females got involved, and it was awesome. Like I loved being a part of it. I loved being able to take a talent that God has just completely freely given to me, and for no reason other than, I don't know, he just wanted me to have it, and give it back.
Yes.
Because there's something that is, I think that, like, if you have a talent, it's kind of like, okay, well, how far can you take that? What are you going to do with it?
Right.
Are you going to do American Idol? Are you going to do The Voice? And to be truthful, I did try for American Idol twice. I was part of a local one called Southern Oregon Idol back in 2006, and I won. And the prize was a flight to Seattle, and I got to audition with other regional winners before everybody else. And I think it was the year, I want to say it's the year Jordan Sparks won. But nothing happened. I went, flew up, auditioned. And again, the audition process, I mean, people know it now. It's not like you get put right in front of the panel of 3. It's like an arena floor. There's 12 tables set up. There's 2 producers at each table. You're stacked four across in a row in front of these 2 producers, lines behind you. And they just go down the 4 of you that are standing in front of them, say, okay, go ahead. And you get like 20 seconds, maybe. And if they're slightly interested, they'll say, okay, can you sing a different song? And so I got asked to sing a different one, but then as soon as I was done, the 4 was like, okay, thanks for coming. And that was it.
Wow.
So that was 2006. And then I did it again, not the local competition, but I just went with my sister and we flew to Denver and tried out in 2009. And same exact experience. And I think that, I wasn't against the idea of using my voice for something like a bigger platform.
Yeah.
But I just didn't have that, like, I want to do this. I want to do it. I didn't have that. I could kind of see that you're very controlled. And it seems like there's freedom in that. Like, oh, you have this gifting and you get to use it and you get to be creative. It's like, kind of, not really though. Yeah. You become a commodity. You are owned and you are told what to do and what to sing. And no longer are you able to have this freedom of expression. I mean, absolutely there are artists that have that, yes. Yeah. But you have to reach a level of fame that's insane.
Yes.
Or there's like, there's pocket ones where like, I remember there's an artist named Johnny Lang who has a great amount of fame where he like tours smaller arenas, smaller venues, and he gets to be a musician and he gets to be creative and it supports his lifestyle, it supports his family, but he's not told what to do. Like there's definitely like levels of fame that I think are actually attainable and really satisfying. Yeah. I just didn't have it in me to pursue that. And what's crazy is even if things had worked out with those American Idol things, the first one that I went to, if I would have succeeded, I wouldn't have met Ryan. The timing would have conflicted with him and I meeting. And then the second one, when I went with my sister, I didn't know this, but I was pregnant. And so God had way better things in mind for me. And so what I've loved about worship and the things that I've been able to do with worship is I've been able to praise God and I've been able to use creativity to inflect what I love so much about music into worship. Yeah. Because a lot of worship is great, but it can be pretty straightforward. I just have this like bend that I like. I really like a song that regardless of what the words are saying, your toe kind of starts tapping. Yeah. And your head just kind of starts moving a little bit. And I mean, Edgewater, I love them. They have, I know they have rhythm. I know they do, deep down. They need to access it, excuse me. It's deep down there. Yes. But like, I want to have worship sets where, and I've been able to do this, where it's like, the words are phenomenal and I'm able to put enough of a twist, if I want to, on songs that it's like, that sounds good.
Yes.
That has a groove. Like, even if you're kind of like, I'm not going to sing out loud, you're still bobbing your head a little bit. And so to be able to have that creative freedom.
Right.
And to be able, with that though, to be singing songs and words that echo back generations that hundreds of men and women have sang, thousands of men, some of these like older hymns and stuff. It's just, there's something so powerful in that. And to truly sing something that I believe with every fiber of my being, like there's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
And so worship has been really an absolutely incredible, I would call it a hobby, but it really has been like a calling and a job now, because I mean, I started volunteering with worship here in 2008. And then in 2021, I was brought on as worship director, which really just means I'm overseeing the bigger services, Easter, Christmas Eve. But I'm also just making sure that the people that are leading worship here, they understand what Edgewater believes worship to be.
Right.
So there's and it hasn't always been a good fit for everybody. There's a big worship movement that's very, how would I call it? Internal. So I would say it's very like between me and God, where you read through the lyrics and it's like a love song to God.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's bad. But at the same time, I think that those more introspective songs have a time and place. I think they're really good on worship nights. But I think for Sunday mornings, when you have people coming into church who maybe haven't been before, you have to be careful about what it is that you're singing. You want songs that promote him.
Right.
Not my feelings.
Yeah.
You don't really need to know my feelings.
Yeah.
What you need to know about church congregation is you need to know about how amazing and powerful and wonderful and good God is.
Yeah.
So we want songs that say as much. Yes, to throw something introspective in there, sure. But don't make it all about you and what you're doing and how you're feeling and how he makes you feel. Stop that. That's worship of you. That's not worship of him. And so it's been an honor to be given that responsibility to oversee and make sure that we're singing songs that are saying that.
Yeah.
And to have leaders in place who believe that and who want to sing like that. We always have a rotation of leaders. We have really good ones right now. It comes and goes in seasons. And there have been phenomenal worship leaders that we've had who have been like, I want more spirit moved. I want less structure. And it's like, I totally understand that. And that's a beautiful way to worship, but that's not how it's going to be here on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And so, and there's been like mutual understanding. And it's like, okay, then you do that at a different church who embraces that.
Right.
But where for us, this is how we want to worship.
Yes.
And so it's been really an honor to have this position. I really am grateful for it. I don't know how long I'll do it, but I still love it.
Yes.
And then the latest thing for me too, as far as work goes, is now women's ministry. So women's ministry at Edgewater has always been a bit siloed. There's always been a lot offered and a lot going on. There's Monday morning Bible study. There's Monday night Bible study. Those have been going on for a long time.
Yes.
There's also all kinds of there's the Titus 2 women's ministry for counseling. There's Wildflowers, 423 Sisters. There's Momco, which is incredible. So there's lots of options for women. And then when Amy Vanderveen came on staff, she really took charge of like the events, a monthly event for any and all women, gather together and let's just have community together.
Yes.
And she did a phenomenal job. She's so lovely and like wonderful to be around that I think she really helped attract women to those monthly events. And because of her business with her husband, they have this incredible, have you had a Betty's bar?
I have.
Unreal.
It's so good.
Unreal.
So good.
Like I would weigh 600 pounds. So because of their success though, she came to a point where it's like, I have to go.
Yeah.
And so my dad, who's still on staff at Edgewater, reached out to me in September. Hey, Amy's going to be done. Women's retreat's coming up. Can you do it? I'm like, what does that mean? But there was a speaker all lined up. It was really just kind of like emceeing the whole weekend, making sure everyone's good and registered and checked in, and that's it. I'm like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
I was going already. I was going to do worship already, so no problem. Went, did that, enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, it was kind of like, okay, well, there's still a couple events on the calendar for November, December. Can you oversee those? Sure. Oversaw those. Learned real quick the amount of food that you have to buy and prep for like an event is above. I love to cook, wild, like above and beyond. And I'm still kind of figuring out the amounts. I'm still fine tuning that process. Thankful for Sean Logue and his practice and how much he's done this. He's been so helpful. But I enjoyed those. And then really the kind of the option was given to me, like, is this something that you want to continue with? And holiday season is very hard for me to really have time to think and process over something like that. It's so crazy. It's the craziest time of year. There's a million things going on. But as the season and the year came to an end, I had some time to really think through and talk it through with my husband and pray through it and say, okay, if I'm going to do this, can I do this? What would you have me do with this, God? Like, what do we do? What do we keep? What do we switch? And really the thing that kept coming to my mind is I want to create really good connection with women. And so as it came to the year, I was like, okay, it's just to the start of the year, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I want to do this. I think I can do this. My job at Ryan's office has lessened. My responsibilities there have lessened, so I have time. Because again, like my compromise that I refuse, or excuse me, I should say that the part of my life that I refuse to compromise is my time with my kids. My older two are getting older. I will not be involved with something that pulls me away from them.
Yeah.
Not in this like precious time that I have, the little precious time I have left. So the scheduling works out. The amount of time I have to contribute works out. I think I could do this. I could be gifted with this. I think I can do this. And really the thing that I want as I look forward to women's ministries is I want that connection. And it's connection in multiple ways, because it's yes, connection to one another. How do we create events and have places where we can get along and see one another and celebrate, worship, fellowship, have conversation, learn? Like, how can we create those opportunities? But also anything and everything that we do as far as events are concerned and women's ministry is concerned, it has to be fostering a deeper connection to Christ, period.
Yes.
Like, it has to have something happening that is causing us as women to reflect on him, to want more of him, to become more dependent on him. I think I also want to help us connect to our calling and purpose as women. Being a woman, a believer in this day and age, what does that look like? What does it look like in our society? How do we walk that role out well? I could go on about feminism, but we don't need to do that right now. And then the last thing is just, a connection for each woman to be able to connect to who God made her to be outside of her roles in family or community or with work. Like, who are you? Are you connecting to who Christ made you to be? And how do we do that? So that's kind of my goal with women's events. And so there are some events that we have that are still going to continue from that Amy started that are just awesome. Progressive bike ride, super fun, coming up in May. We just did a bunko night in February, and we'll have the annual retreat in October. But I'm looking forward to having some new events, and the biggest of those, the biggest undertaking of those is going to be Refined.
Yes. So
Game Changers, and what Game Changers has been for men, has really created something incredible. It's created a sense of community and dedication and evangelism to one another and to our community. It's amazing. And there's been an outcry from women like, when do we get ours? And so with Refined, yes, I am kind of aiming it for it to be a female version of Game Changers, but I have to put a little asterisk next to that. Because what I want to be careful of is women thinking that the only women that can share testimony and story and insight and teaching of value are those who have gained a notoriety or a level of success that allows them to travel and to do that.
Right. Yep.
And what I love is Game Changers just doesn't just do that. They have incredible like panels and like Carrie is such a gifted speaker. Like I love that they have a variety in their different meetings. But I think with Refined, yes, am I open to the idea of outside speakers coming in? 100%. But do you know how much wisdom and life experience and incredible testimony and story exist in our church? Like, come on now. And I don't want women to think the only time I would be able to share my story is if I had a platform.
Right.
It's like, nah, girl, this is your platform. Yeah. So I want to focus on stories of women here.
Yes.
And I think, too, the other part of it that's going to be a little bit different is where men, and my friend Bethany said this, men are encouraged and like challenged when they're shoulder to shoulder one to another, looking forward at a common goal. But women, we are more encouraged when we are face to face. And so Refined, instead of being like a teaching format with a lectern and one speaker, it's going to be an interview very similar to this.
Yeah.
Like a podcast.
Yes.
Where there's question and answer back and forth.
Yep.
It's conversational.
Yes.
And it allows for the speaker to really be able to relax into the evening, because not a lot of women are like, I'm a great public speaker. But they can have a conversation.
Right.
No problem.
Yep.
And then also for the women there that evening that are listening, it's very easy to listen to. I mean, Oprah was popular for a reason because she sat there and she asked great questions.
Yes.
And pulled out the details from the speaker that people wanted to know about. That's what I'm aiming for with Refined.
Yes.
And I think it's going to be really cool because it's an opportunity to have, yes, testimony, but also teaching. Like what is a calling that God has put on your life that you're currently living out? And how would you instruct and invite women who are interested or in that same position to move forward in that? Yeah. And so I'm really, really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really excellent opportunity. And I'm just hopeful for this year. I'm hopeful for women's ministries that we can continue to pick up where we've left off, but also deepen and be more enriched and, come together.
Yes. So the first Refined event is coming up a week from Sunday. So that's March 15th. Do you want people to register ahead of time? Can they show up at the door?
Really, they can show up at the door. It's helpful if they register. We wanted to get like a little light refreshment for beforehand. Yeah. So if we kind of have a head count, then we can do that. But if you end up not registering and you hear about it last minute, by all means, just come.
Yes.
Just come. And it's open to this one in particular because Selena Alderson's sharing. She's a counselor at North Middle School. So this is open to girls ages 14 and up.
Okay.
If you have a daughter in that middle school, high school, college age, please come with her.
Okay. And then obviously they can register on the website or then just show up at the door.
Yeah.
And before I let you or ask you to close in prayer, I do kind of have a question, just kind of an overall, I guess, life question.
Yeah.
Because your parents are Mark and Katie.
Yes.
They were very invested at Applegate, very instrumental and still are here at Edgewater.
Yes.
So I'm curious, you growing up, having parents who were so musical, so into ministry.
Yes.
Was there ever that point where it felt like it was an expectation for you to follow in footsteps? And if so, when did that change for you? Because obviously your passion for it now is so yours. And it's not, I'm doing this because I have to do this.
Yeah. You know what's funny? I've never thought of that. But I can say like with full confidence, I don't think my parents ever put any expectation on me as far as, or any of us kids, as far as being involved in ministry. They more or less, I think, had a hope that we would always pursue Jesus.
Yeah.
And so, and that's come to pass. Like they served because they believed that that was what God had called them to do. And they have 3 kids that have great marriages, that love their kids, that love the Lord, and get to do ministry in their own, in their own ways.
Yeah.
So it's really, it never was a requirement. It never felt like well, you need to do this.
Right.
It was just more like you follow Jesus and he will light your path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you sharing your testimony, and I'm excited to see the work. Obviously, excited to have you as the worship director, and excited to see the work you do as women's ministry lead. Could you close us in prayer?
Yeah, absolutely. Jesus, thank you so much for this time. And Father, I just thank you for the life that you have led me to live, that you have been the constant. You've been the guide and the hand and the light. And Father, I pray that you would continue to have your hand on my life and that you would continue to direct me in the way that you would have me to go, because life without you is meaningless. And I just thank you so much for this time and the opportunity to share where you have been and how you have been in my life. And I'm just so grateful for you and my relationship with you. So just thank you for this time. Thank you for this ministry. I pray it would be fruitful and abundant and a blessing to all who hear. So thank you for this time in your name. Amen.
Thank you for listening to Jesus is the Deep End. If you'd like to connect, ask questions, or share feedback, we welcome your comments at jesusisthedeepend@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram at Jesus is the Deep End. To learn more about Edgewater Christian Fellowship in Grants Pass, please visit edgewaterfellowship.org. Until next time, our prayer is that you encounter God in praise, prayer, preaching, and community, that He transforms the world through you.